On today's show, 6 tips on how to deal with the city for your rental properties.
We're going to teach you to get in the driver's seat and not freak out when you get notices in the mail about your rental property.
Yeah, we've got 6 tips for you. You're going to want to stick around. Hey, everyone, I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And we're longtime real estate investors, so we've been through the grist mill dealing with the city on a number of different properties. We're going to teach you the tricks of the trade. We've been longtime real estate investors. In 2017, we left our day jobs in order to focus exclusively on passive income and financial freedom. And now we want to help others build financial freedom and financial intelligence. Right?
That's right. Exactly right. So let's say you just got started and you bought your first rental property, right? And you're thinking, this is great. I'm going to get rental income every month. Awesome. And then you get something in the mail from the city saying, high weeds violation.
You got a sidewalk that right. So first, before we even get into these 6 tips, let's just talk about passive income.
About how this works, right? Because a lot of times as a new investor, you get any notice from the city. Actually, I'm not a new investor and I still get that like butterfly fluttery when I see something come. And a lot of times they still come in the mail. You don't get an email from it. And I see it and it says like city of so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, and I open it like this. And you know, everything is solvable, but for some reason it hits me like a spanking.
Right.
I really hate it, right? And so I know if I hate it and I'm an experienced real estate investor, anyone else out there who's new, they must really hate it.
Well, look, I'm going to come back to my point about passive income, right? You get into rental real estate, and if you've got a property management company, and you do it the way that we teach you to do it, right? Which is to be hands-off. You deal with your taxes. You make sure your insurance is taken care of. You work with your property management company. Passive income, yes, you're getting monthly passive income, but you still need to oversee your portfolio, right? Have a handle on it. So it's passive, but you have to still do some work in order to make it and nurture it and make it passive, right?
Exactly.
And so some of that is going to include the city. Are the first 2 rental properties that Natalie and I ever bought in Michigan. We still own them and they're still great. But within the first 2 months of ownership, we got a letter from the city of Detroit, Michigan, saying your sidewalk is cracked and we're going to fine you unless you get it fixed.
Right. And,
like,
you know, we don't live there. So we're like, how are we going to do that? I mean,
sidewalk crack? Come on.
My reaction to that was like, okay, I'm going to fly to Michigan and get a cement mixer and then like do it myself, right?
Don't do that.
No, that's exactly what you should not do. So let's talk about some of the things that we've been dealing with lately. For instance, high weeds and grass happens a lot in the summer. Although ironically enough, we still get these notices in
the
deep,
winter.
Cold freezes, which leaves us scratching our head because we're like, how? The ground is frozen. How are you giving me a high? Like, it just gives you this sense that like there are city inspectors that drive around and just kind of like paperboy, just like throw these out, right? Because that's how the city makes money.
Right. The city, remember, it's a money-making plan for the city. Okay. So when you work in these different municipalities all over the country, every city is going to have, we were dealing with it in New Jersey. We got stuff from, New Jersey, from, when you live in California, you'd get stuff. I mean, you get stuff anywhere because it's a way for the bureaucracy, the cities to make money. So they want to fine you if their grass gets over a certain height, right? Well, maybe you've got a tenant in the property who's elderly and doesn't have a push mower, right? So these are some things we're going to walk through this process, how you work with your property management company on them, but don't freak out is step 1, right? So step 1 in this whole process is don't freak out.
Right, because if we're getting high weeds and grass violation, even in negative 15 temperatures, you know it's not personal. You haven't done anything wrong. This goes with the territory.
Right, and you may be receiving this letter because it's 6 months late in getting to you. And it may even be before you even owned the property. So again, don't freak out is step 1. Just open the letter, let it digest. Don't freak out. You're not losing your property. You're not going out of business. And then move on to step 2.
Because the worst thing you could do is get on the phone with somebody and be like, I didn't do this. How dare you? I don't even live there. That is a surefire way to make sure that that fine sticks.
Right. So number one, again, don't freak out. Number two, you have a property management company for a reason, right? They are local. They are there handling these types of issues. So talk to your property management company and simply ask them to get you some photos. If they need, if the city is saying that the grass is 7 feet tall, well, hey, property management company, can you check and see if that's the case? And oftentimes they will have a direct line to the city. Mm-hmm. They will get on the phone with the city and they will get it taken care of, and you don't even have to deal with it.
Right. That may be the case.
Right. That's the goal anyway.
But sometimes you as the owner has to do something. And so you need to find the person behind the person behind the person. There's been many of these where I've had to track down who exactly is in charge of contesting these. A lot of times the first person you get on the phone with is someone who's going to be like, no, you got to pay that. And I'm going to be like, okay, who is in charge of contesting it? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes that person doesn't even know. They're just like the first line of defense. And you got to purge deeper into the city to find out who is it that actually you need to talk to.
So we had a situation the other day where we had a property in Michigan that we received a letter about it being non-rehabbed and vacant.
It wasn't a letter. It was a summons. It said, this is a summons and suit, meaning the city is suing you because this property is vacant. Now, it was dated and pictures came out before we owned it.
Right,
so
before we even owned the property. So the city had gone through in their filing system and found just a vacant property that hadn't yet been rehabbed and was still sitting vacant. Well, guess what? Now it has been rehabbed by our team, and there's a tenant now about to move into the property.
Right.
So Natalie got on the phone with the city and found the person behind the
3 transfers.
Right. So she got the person behind the person behind the person, and the person that she finally got to ended up being super nice and said, "You're right. We actually made a mistake, and we now see that the property is in compliance with city code, and we're going to dismiss it. All good."
Talk about scary. That's not like you are eligible for a violation. This is like, we never gave you a warning, but we are suing you. It was a proper lawsuit, like with the, format at the top, and it was named, several addresses were on this suit and several LLCs. So it was like, you are being sued by the city. I did not like that.
No, we also had one of those in Pennsylvania one time, right? Because of having to fix something on our property that actually didn't need to be fixed. And then the property management company was able to take care of it. But in this situation, when you see that, and I don't know what the suit would have been for, probably a few $100 fine. Like, it's not like you're...
I don't even know. It gave you an option. It was like, sell it, live in it, or, fix it. And so I was able to call and I said, I know for a fact this property's in good shape, but also we didn't own it at the time of this violation and your photos. And I can prove that to you. And I also followed up with an email with our closing documents to prove when the deed was recorded.
Did you send them the nice photos of like the new cabinets, the new roof, the new windows?
I did not actually, but I could. I was ready. I had it at the ready.
Yeah. So anyway, find the person behind the person. Chances are they're going to be reasonable. Just talk with them about it and everything will be fine, right?
Right.
I mean, we had a similar situation on a property we have in New Jersey where the city says one thing, and we know that to be wrong, and so we had our team reach out and actually connect with them to get it remedied. Right. So just find the right person.
And then you just want to ask them, how do I contest it? Or how do I reduce my fine? Now, it could be that you did do something wrong that did need to be fixed. And then you have to ask them, okay, now that I have it fixed, can I ask for a reduction in the fine?
Right.
That's just the language you're asking for.
And most of the time, almost in all of these circumstances, they're just going to give you a warning. So in the case of the sidewalk, the cracked sidewalk, they just sent us a letter saying you have to fix this sidewalk.
And they'll give you a date when they intend to re-inspect, and don't play with that date because they will come out. Because you have to think about, like, this poor guy is the inspector. He runs all around all of these neighborhoods and just like, okay, that, right? And so they have a lot on their plate. they're not maybe taking the most meticulous notes, but they don't like to be challenged either. If you're like, hey, you're absolutely wrong. So you just have to be as prepared as they are. And a lot of times if you're organized, then they're going to say, okay, you're absolutely right. We had a fine on a property that the city had sent the notice to the previous owner. So by the time it made it to me, they had escalated it from warning to actual violation. That was made it all the way to my tax bill because I didn't know it. And it was $800. And so I just continued to wrestle with them, send them my closing documents, send them the pictures that I had been compliant since I owned it. A lot of investors I knew in that area had been getting their fines reduced. So I was hoping for maybe a reduction. And then they called me one day and they're like, no, we're going to just take it off, which was an awesome win, right? And it's just a matter of you keeping your level head. Don't curse them out. They will not do that. I tend to think that they have the power of like an airline stewardess the gate check to give you first class or give you like...
Put you the back of the line.
The back of the plane where you get your elbows bumped by people going to the bathroom all the time.
Well, the bottom line is that these things are not that scary, and this is part of the business. I just want to reiterate, when you're a real estate investor, I was speaking to a big commercial real estate investor who does big buildings, apartment, from the ground up construction, townhome, condo complexes, and he's like, dealing with the city, it's a nightmare sometimes. It can be a nightmare. However, it's part of the business. And when you are in the number one way of building wealth in this country and the tax benefits that come from real estate investing, it's not going to all be flowers growing up all the time.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with some of these headaches in order to really have that bounty of passive income. All right.
And if you invest in a place where you don't live, right? Our next tip is figure out who your allies are, who can help you. Because hopefully you have someone on your team there that does have a good relationship with the city, that doesn't want to blow up their relationship with the city over one small thing, and then has a way to help you, either a lawyer or a property manager or whoever, right? Just make sure you've got a really good team there. Remember, in our primary home we bought, where we lived before this house, we bought it from a flipper.
Right.
And there was a violation that had sort of come later because we had a very rude neighbor who reported a violation years after we had already bought the home. She knew we didn't do it. And I was like, we didn't do this. The previous owner did. And she's like, yeah, you're going to have to sue them for it then. And I was like, why did you do this? Right. But the previous owner, we went to him and we said, she reported this. We need your help. He helped us fix it because he's a flipper in the area. He did not want to ruin his relationship with the city. So he helped us comply, which was great because then we would have had to fix it ourselves and sue him. It was awful.
Right.
Don't be that kind of neighbor.
Right. And, and going through like lawsuits, they're never good. The old rule is to do a lawsuit, the only people that make money are the lawyers. So you don't want to have to go through that entire process, right? Especially for something that's that small.
Yeah.
That can end up being fixed. So anyway, ask for help if you're not in the area. That's a great tip. Number 6 on this list for tips is just be kind, right?
Yeah.
Really, honestly, it comes down to that. When you call the city, you're finding somebody who's working long hours, who's dealing with tons of calls like this. So just be kind. It's going to get you very, very far. And you'll likely get things reduced, removed. They'll work with you on extending the timeline, date. If you just got something in the mail and they're asking you to get it done by Friday, call them. I'm sure if you're nice to them, kindness goes a long way in helping you to deal with these different cities.
Exactly. And that relates to tip number 1, which is don't panic. Because I do think that these people who can help you can smell fear like dogs. And so if you're afraid and you freak out on them and you're rude, they're less likely to help you. So you got to keep your head about you. These things happen. It goes with the territory. If you can't handle it, you got to get out of the kitchen. That's not if you can't take the heat,
get out of the kitchen.
Get out.
You know what? Go back to your 9-to-5 job and don't worry about passive income and building financial freedom. If you can't handle these small things, then you shouldn't be doing it. But this is honestly part of the process. This is something you're going to experience as a real estate investor. And as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you've got a big portfolio of 50, 60, 100 properties, you're going to deal with this every year And it's just part of if you build it into your mentality, then you won't be upset or scared when you get a letter like this in the mail.
Yeah. A lot of times I'm like, Clayton, deal with it. And he's like, but I don't have all it's me that keeps like the drop boxes. It's me that keeps the leases and the full, like he could find it, right? But he's like, no, you gotta deal with it. And so I totally relate to this, like, oh, I don't like it. Get it out of my mailbox. But you got to deal with it, and you will eventually become better about it and stop being so scared. I'm waiting for that to happen to me any day now.
Stop being scared. And thank you for subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate it. You should also download our free Freedom Cheat Sheet. That's the formula. It's the 3 pages. It's totally free. It'll help you figure out your financial freedom number, how much passive income you need in order to quit your 9-to-5 job and live financially free. You can download it for free. We encourage you to do that. So that's today's show, everyone. Now go out there, take action. Don't be scared about these little letters that you get occasionally. Become a real estate investor. It's the #1 way to build wealth. We'll see you next time, everyone.